2020 has been a trying year for theme parks all across the country, and for Kings Island, that has been no exception. Because of COVID-19, the park was not open until July the 2nd of this year. Kings Island officials did a great job of enacting some protocols to make the park as safe for guests as they could for when the park did eventually open up. This includes issuing guidelines ensuring all guests would wear masks, installing social distancing markers in the queue lines, sanitizing ride vehicles between cycles, and the list goes on. The way that Kings Island managed these difficulties splendidly in order to provide us guests with a chance to enjoy some of our favorite rides is definitely very much appreciated. Unlike many other parks with new coaster installations this year, Kings Island decided to go ahead with the opening of the much-anticipated Orion, the park's new 300-foot drop Giga Coaster, and the operations for that coaster this season were as good or better than one could have expected. November 1st was the last operating day of the park, and we decided to head on over to get in some last coaster rides for the year, and this was our experience. The first thing we noticed when we got to the park was the atmosphere. Even though the Halloween Haunt had been canceled this year, the park had provided a lower scale event which they called Tricks and Treats Fall Fest. There were a lot of decorations set up for this event, along with special food items. There's also activities for the kids to do. It was really cool. Check out our upcoming Tricks and Treats Fall Fest video for more info about this event. We were curious about the fast lane options, so we went over to see if it was even available for the day, which it was, but it cost about $100 per ticket, and with the three of us, we skipped that upgrade. We decided we wanted to get on some coasters, so we headed over towards Banshee. Definitely enjoyed our ride on that. We then went to check out Invertigo, but it was not operating for the day, so we made our way into the Coney Mall. We skipped Adventure Express, thinking we would ride it later in the day, and got on the Racer. After we got off this, we noticed that the park was starting to get more crowded and lines were becoming longer. The weather was fairly nice, especially for the 1st of November. After this, I split up from our group to take some photos of the park. I had a really nice time exploring the park and seeing all of the decor that they had set up for this Fall Fest event. Walking around, I noticed the park was starting to get pretty crowded, and the lines were starting to get long, which during this season could be frustrating because of the slow dispatch times on the coasters, with most of them running at least one train down due to the need to sanitize between cycles. This was bittersweet because I like to think that the park was able to have one last day of some decent revenue with the shortened season, but I was also kind of hoping for some shorter wait times since it was a Sunday. But it was nice seeing everybody out having such a great time. I was able to get some good video and photos of Orion, the Racer. I went and took some pictures of the old Vortex plots, and then I headed into Rivertown. This is one of my favorite areas of the park and is home to Mystic Timbers and Diamondback, which are two of my favorite coasters at Kings Island. After checking out these coasters for a bit, I headed into Planet Snoopy and saw that there were a lot of families who were not only enjoying all of the attractions, but also the Tricks and Treats Fall Fest event with all of the games and activities aimed for kids. I also noted that the Flying Ace aerial chase was not operating that day. Neither was the Race for Your Life Charlie Brown, but that had closed along with the other rides back around Labor Day. I then headed back up to Orion to meet up with my group and take a ride on that. Really had a good time on this. We sat towards the back. This coaster has been a great addition to the park for this year, and I think gave people some excitement and some extra incentive to make a trip to Kings Island this year, in spite of all the COVID guidelines. We actually have a video up of our review of this coaster on our channel, so please feel free to check that out. After our ride on Orion, we decided to head into the Miami River Brew House for some lunch. I had a burger that came with tots. The food came out really quickly, it was hot, tasted good. Even the tots, which they call potato barrels at this restaurant, were really good. I'm not, like a tot connoisseur or anything, but these were way above average. I was really happy with all of it. While we were sitting there at lunch, we noticed that the app said there was no wait for Mystic Timbers, so a couple of us ran across the midway to get in line for that. When we got there, we found out that the app was wrong, and there was actually a pretty full line for Mystic Timbers, and we didn't want to leave the other member of our party alone for the hour plus it was going to take to get on, so we went back into the brew house. I tried the Hershey Yingling on draft. I hadn't had that before, and I enjoyed that. And Jess tried one of the Fall Fest themed beverages, and I had a little taste of that, and it was really good as well. So after finishing up our drinks, we headed back into the park and noticed that there was a significant change in temperature. The temperature had dropped quite a bit, and it had gotten a lot more windy. It was a windy day to begin with, but it had really picked up, so much so that all of the steel coasters were shut down due to wind. So with the temperature drop and no assurances if the rides would be open back up at all the rest of the day, plus we had a 2+ hour drive home, we decided to leave the park and head back. So on our way out, we made another lap through Planet Snoopy to look at some of the fall decor, and made a lap around Action Zone to go look at the pumpkin carving. And that was really neat. We had a fun last day together at the park, got a few last laps in on some of our favorite rides. I definitely appreciate the effort that Kings Island put in during the shortened season to make the guest experience as enjoyable as possible. I know there were a lot of challenges with the shortened season and a lot of complaints, but they really made do with what they had available and made the season as good as it could be. So thank you for that, Kings Island. We look forward to coming back here next season for more great experiences like the one we had today. If you liked our video today, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, Coaster Boogaloo can be found on Instagram and Facebook. Thanks for watching.